All right, Katie, I think we're ready to go. Do you have anything to share before we get started?
The only thing I was going to share is if anyone on this call is not part of our Women of the AEMA group chat or on our Facebook, any female equipment managers, if they want to message me to get added or to join. And then anyone is welcome to come to our Women of the AEMA session at the national conference in June. It's on the schedule. I don't remember what time it's at, but that is open to everyone to come and join and have a discussion. So if you want to join, if you're a female manager and you want to join our group chats, message me. If you just want to come join our large meeting in June, everyone is welcome.
Perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody. I'm excited to host another panel twice this month. That's awesome. Just as a little reminder, we've had an awesome turnout for scholarship applicants from student equipment managers. So those of you that are passing the word on, great stuff. We are awarding $15,000 this semester. So really, if you have students that are looking for additional scholarships, need something, it's really touching story. We had a girl from LSU win one of our top prizes, and it was able to keep her in her grad assistant program. She was going to have to give it up. She couldn't come up with enough funding to do it. So there's that. If you need boxes, bags, all that good stuff, as you guys are cleaning out, getting ready for shipments, please let us know. We're getting that out. Looking at a huge year for that. And also a reminder, we have our conference starting this summer. It is in Minneapolis, so if you guys are looking for something a little bit more unique, it's including athletic directors, kind of across the board, pro sports, college sports. Be a really neat conference that we're hosting this summer in Minneapolis. We definitely don't want to host it in the winter. I think they're supposed to get 2 feet of snow today or something. So, but summertime is great there. So as we get moving forward, just as another reminder, please make sure you got first and last name on your Zoom call situation. Include the school organization, also your district, and the certified, not certified. That really helps us out. If you all know your district folks that help track CEUs and Robin at the back end of it, this makes their time a lot easier. So please make sure you're doing that. There will also be a QR code at the end to do that as well. So get your phones out and ready and ready to scan that towards the end of the call as we get started. So, and just kind of a planning coming up here. We'll have one in a few weeks, March 8th. And then we're basically kind of once a month until we get preparing for AMA and post AMA. So excited for the schedule ahead, and I know there's additional stuff being added to the schedule for later this summer. If you have ideas for these, please pass them along to this group. We love ideas. This group or this session here was something that was added, and it's going to be hugely valuable for everyone attending. So please, if you've got ideas, please share them. And without further ado, we've got a great panel today. Starting out with Rashida Spratley, Paige Schimberg, Kelly Jones, Becca Hubner, and Kaylee Schmidt. So thanks to the 5 of you for jumping on. I'll go kind of as normally as I try to do here. I'll go round robin with some questions, but kind of to get things started, if you could go ahead and just let us know how you became an equipment manager. So we'll start with Rashida, and if you want to start kind of letting us know how you became an equipment manager, and we'll kind of work our way back through with the next question. So Rashida, go ahead and kick us off.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I became an equipment manager a while ago, but it started at Bowie State University. I was supposed to have an internship my senior year because that's when I got this revelation that I really wanted to do sports. And I was approached by the football coach because my internship got canceled. Football coach asked me if I wanted to join his equipment staff. And I just said yes, didn't really know everything that I was going to have to do. I only knew a few things because I did help with the strength and conditioning coach because he also doubled helping with equipment my sophomore year at Bowie. And they gave me a helmet, told me to put it together with a face mask, and I've been stuck doing equipment ever since because I found a love for it.
Awesome. Thank you. Paige, would you mind sharing a little bit?
Sure. So I started when I was in high school as a manager with my high school team when I was a sophomore. Realized I could do it in college, did it as a student manager throughout college, worked with 3 great equipment managers during that time. And then when I graduated, I got hired full-time at the same college I went to, and worked with some Olympic sports there, helped out with football, then took over football and then have moved over here. So kind of just stuck with it since I started out in high school.
Awesome. Kelly, let's hear the origin story.
Yeah, Rashida, you said you were been in this a long time. I've been in this when women's sports just started growing. So I started back in 1987. I got into it because Gettysburg College was increasing women's sports. At the time, they only had 4. So they had a need for a female equipment manager. And yeah, that's how I got into it, because there was a need for it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Becca, would you mind sharing a little bit?
Of course. So my story is similar to Paige's. I got my start when I was a senior in high school with our football team. We had a really good year, went to semi-state and all that. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. So then when I went to college at Ball State, was recruited in my intro to sport administration class. Got to work with Tex Ritter at Ball State, where he kind of took me under his wing and was like, all right, well, if you want to do this, now's your time to learn. So I got to learn with him, and then he actually hooked me up with Melly, Curtis, Liz, all the guys here at Northwestern during a District 5 meeting. So I have a lot of AEMA connection with kind of how I got my start, which then to leading me volunteering at Northwestern, which led me to Tulane and now back. So have a wide women in AEMA network to thank to get me here at Northwestern.
That's awesome, Becca. And Kaylee, would you share a little bit?
So I'm still a student manager at the University of Kansas, and I got my start. My dad was a coach for the middle school at my middle school, and he was a coach of all sports: football, basketball, track, coach baseball in the summer. So I've just always been around sports. So I'm not surprised that I am doing what I'm doing now, and hopefully make a career out of football equipment managing. But I got involved my junior year of high school, had a really great 2 years there. Wish I would have started out as a freshman. But during my high school, I started watching Last Chance U, and I just fell in love with the JUCO experience. So last year I went to Coffeyville Community College for 1 year, and then did 1 year at Coffeyville, and then I just came to KU in May of last year. And I'm a sophomore at KU and plan to graduate and then do this full time. So
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. And we'll kind of jump over to our next question. And we'll start with you, Kaylee. As we know, policy there at Kansas is a little well drawn out there. So I want you to explain that. But obviously one of the biggest things that women have to navigate in the world is the idea of being in a male sports locker room. So how do you navigate handling the male sports and dealing with those guys and being in the locker room, and what rules do you put in place, and what kind of guidelines and borderlines do you guys put up to make sure that you guys are safe at the workplace?
yeah, so at KU, we have a very strong student manager program. So it's been established, and just some things that we do to make. We actually have, it's me and there's 3 other females on our staff of 11 student managers. So I'm not the only one, which that definitely helps. But so like after practice, instead of going straight to the locker room to start laundry, I kind of stay back and clean up practice, do the field equipment, just kind of stay back until I can walk into the equipment room. Our equipment room kind of like sits right by the locker room, so our window kind of faces in, but we kind of shut one door just so like we're not looking in, they're not looking in, type thing. So I usually just wait till laundry to get that started. So hang out after practice, just wait for the laundry to actually get started. But then with setting up locker rooms and like game day stuff, setting up the locker rooms, we do it the night before, so there's no boys there. And then game day itself, as soon as the boys arrive, I'm already out on the field. I'm getting ready for the specialist to come out. I'm getting ready, setting up stuff on the field, whatever it may be. If a corner needs warmed up, I'm helping warm up a corner by throwing balls to them. So I kind of just try to stay out of the way, try to not have a conflict by just planning one step ahead. And it definitely helps having other females here too. And at the University of Kansas, having females in the past where my two bosses kind of help not have us have a run-in situation. But at the end of the day, we are here to do a job. So if there was a situation, we just handle it professionally. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. We'll go right back up. Becca, would you mind sharing a little bit on that topic?
Yeah, sure. And kind of Kaylee hit it on the head there. Like, I don't go into any locker room without yelling like, yo, anyone in here? Or like having someone check before I go in, even my women's teams, just because that's their space. And it's one of those where it's like their stuff is everywhere, whatever, that's their space. So I always check or have someone check before I go in, but it's more being a professional. Like if you know someone's in there, then you just wait till they leave or get in there before or after. So it's really for me, like it's just a respect thing. So it's like, if they know you got to get in there, just be like, hey, hurry up or let me know when you're gone. But it's really, I don't, unless if I absolutely have to go into locker rooms, I won't.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece. Is it's, you know, really should be treated the same way, just on the professional side of things, whether it's male or female. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Becca. Kelly, would you share a little bit kind of your time and how you did that in your role?
Sure, same thing. At Gettysburg, we had 3 equipment rooms. None of them butted into a locker room, so we were safe there. But I would always have, I had a workforce of 30 to 35 students, so I'd always have male or female students, depending on what team we were working in, and I'd let the students do most of it. But like Kaylee said, you schedule the time around when the team's not going to be there. So that's just coordinating with your coaches and seeing what time they need them in the locker room and getting the work done before then.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Paige, would you mind chipping in?
I don't know that I have a lot that's different than what anyone else has set up to this point. Just a lot of, to echo Becca, being respectful of all student athletes. I obviously only have football, so that's only worrying about the guys and females going into that locker room. But we just don't have female student managers or myself go into the locker room when there are guys in there. If we do have to go in there when there are guys are in there, same thing. We'll just kind of give a shout, hey, is everyone dressed? Is it okay if I come in? And then just address it that way, but just professionalism and echoing what everyone else has set up to this point.
Perfect. And Rashida, we'll wrap this one up with you.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. I think practice for us was a little bit easier because the guys would come get their stuff ahead of time, or it was just easier for practice. As far as game day, being ahead at Bowie State University, I had only females that worked with me. I did not have any males that really wanted to be a part of our equipment staff. So at our home games, we had a wall. We stood on that side of the wall because there was nowhere else for us to go. We had to be inside the inside the locker room because our equipment room was up top a hill. So we're behind a wall. The guys usually came around. We also kind of waited, even if we went to an away game or if it's a home game. I try to give the guys about 20, 30 minutes to get your stuff on, at least your pants on or something, because at that point, it was keep your head up and don't look down, because that was the only other way sometimes, because sometimes they wouldn't move or sometimes they wouldn't come outside to come to us, or it was an emergency situation where it was like run in there, get it done, hurry up and get back out. But basically staying behind a wall or staying off to the side so that we were not in the actual view of them getting dressed.
Thanks, Rashida. Want to kind of ask kind of a big question. I think a lot of people are wanting to tune in for, and I think we've seen a huge movement, which has been awesome to see across the association. But bringing more females into the association or into the equipment manager role, you've seen a lot of that, and just want to ask you guys of how can that movement become greater? How can that movement become more maybe easier for the next generation, if you will, of female equipment managers? And talk about the hiring process. Is there a different process to make sure that you're inclusive of both male and females in those roles? So again, we'll start with Rashida and we'll kind of work through. So let's talk about that a little bit.
As far as hiring process for me, I take anybody as long as you have a passion for it and you're going to follow the rules. I don't discriminate between men and women, but like I said before, we get more females that want to be a part of the program than I do males for some reason. I've done both football. I've been the head for football and women's basketball, and being on both sides, I've noticed that it's more females that come to me wanting to be a part of the program. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
It's kind of, the awareness of, that hiring process. So how do you spread the word? How do you get more people involved?
So our spreading the word, I had a great person on my staff who she likes to do flyers and things like that. So most of our hiring went out through putting it on social media, then adding a Google Doc link to our page so that they could just click the link, fill out the Google form, and then we had interview processes through Zoom or in-person interviews after that. So that was how we did it. And then we also did get a lot of girls who came from their high school, because their high school coaches would contact me and say something to me about it, send me an email and let me know that their girl's coming on campus, she's gonna be a freshman, and we'd reach out to them that way. So word of mouth or social media is pretty much how we got a lot of our girls to come help us out.
Yeah, I think the high school route is something new, almost kind of like a feeder program. That's awesome that it's growing at that level too. So Paige, would you mind sharing a little bit on your end of the transition, or how we can continue to grow females in the equipment manager role?
Sure. So hiring here, similar, we do a lot of posting on social media, mostly putting things out through our football social media, retweeting it or reposting it from other platforms as well. And that's kind of how we get students. And then of course, typically students, male, female, doesn't really matter. They're all applying. And then we just go through that application process regardless, same way, regardless whether they're male or female. Helping more women get into it, how to hire more female student managers. Been kind of lucky, whatever word you want to use, in this position, with being a female equipment manager. People see my name and then they're like, oh, women do this, so yeah, I'm going to apply for the job. But of course, at the universities where it's a male equipment manager, it's just having that open door. And then even talking to, if you already have female student managers in place, talking to them, hey, do you have any friends that maybe want to come? And just raising that awareness so that when those posts do go out, your female student population are aware that that is normal, to be a female student manager, that there is no male, female, it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, that's it.
A follow-up question for you, kind of off script a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned, males hiring, hopefully down the road. What kind of advice, with all the male equipment managers on this call, can you give them to finding or being more accepting to the female role? So this is a tough question for you. Again, I think everyone would appreciate a very straightforward answer, because I think we see the value, and I think it's important that if there's the opportunity, we handle it right. Sure.
So I'll start by saying my former boss hates it when I call him out, so I won't say his name. But when he, I was already hired as a student manager by the time he came in. Becca, stop laughing. By the time he came into the university that I was at, I was already hired as a student manager. So it's just kind of a getting to know you meeting. But one of the first things he said to me is, I'm not going to treat you like a girl. And I said, good. Like, that's what I want. I don't want you to think of me as a female student manager versus a male student manager. I don't want you to treat me any differently. I just want you to ask me to do the same things that you'd ask anyone else to do. And you just play to those students' strengths. I have some male student managers who can't fold a t-shirt to save their lives. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're male or female. It has everything to do with they just can't fold a t-shirt. So it's just playing to their strengths and understanding where they add value to the program. But to me, the important thing is like, it shouldn't matter, male, female, that shouldn't be a consideration in the hiring process. I think everyone adds value in their own way. I had a female student manager who was probably 4'10", weighed like 100 pounds soaking wet, whatever, but she loved doing all the arts and crafts parts of the job. So she'd make all of our nameplates and she'd organize things and she would make sure everything was labeled properly and all of that. And so she brought value in her own way. Yeah, I wasn't going to have her go out there and pull a pop-up across the field, but you know, she added value in her own way. So just kind of looking at people as who they are and what they can bring to the table, and not thinking so much about, are you male, are you female, can you go into a men's locker room, things like that. Hopefully that answered the question.
Oh, you nailed it. I think that's, I mean, all of us in any leadership position, I think we are successful because we hire people that make us better in filling those roles. And you said it doesn't make a difference if it's male or female. Filling that role is the most important part to make the team successful. So go ahead, and Kelly, would you go ahead and talk about kind of the process and over maybe your years and how it's grown and how can it be better?
Josh, I'm going to start a little differently. When I first went to my first convention in 1990, I could name all the females that attended that convention. To say how the women have grown in this profession over the years, it's tremendous. So one of the things that you could do, I'm not going to dwell much more other than you women are empowered in this position. And what you can do to get more women in there is to empower those women. So just keep empowering those individuals that want to do this job.
That's awesome. Becca, you might add a little bit to that.
Of course. So anyone can do this job, really, male, female, whoever. It's just getting that person a chance and giving them a chance to either fail miserably or enjoy it. And it's one of those where I don't hold anyone's hand really, because my hand wasn't held. Kind of like in Paige's situation, they just kind of let me go. Like, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to learn and figure it out. And so that's kind of my approach is like, yeah, obviously we at Northwestern, our students are here to be students. So we kind of take that approach of like, if you have a class or whatever, like you're here to do that first and we'll work around that. But yeah, I don't hold people's hands. It's like, if you want to do this, like, then let's get up and do it. So in terms of recruiting, like we use our students to recruit and help us recruit that way. We've gone to career fair, job fair in the beginning of the year when people come back on campus to just kind of see like, hey, like, you just go stand there and just have a presence really is the biggest part of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Becca. We'll come back right back to you, Becca. I know one of the notes Katie passed along here was the idea or the working environment around I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's called allyship, I believe is what it's called. So would you mind, Becca, jumping into that, explain a little bit how that works, and then we'll kind of go through and explain how that works on your guys' campuses.
Sure. So allyship to me is just more of a network, and I am where I am because of said network. So I guess I can go back into my story. How I got hired at Tulane, the head women's basketball coach called Roxanne Moody, who was at Wake Forest, who then called Melly at Northwestern, who then myself just happened to be volunteering with Melly at the time. So I was in the right place at the right time, but connected to the right people. So it's more, if anyone on this call were to email me, call me, be like, hey, do you have somebody for XYZ job? I'm getting on the phone to Paige. I'm calling Kelly. I'm calling Katie. I'll call Rashida. I'll literally call anybody that I know to be like, hey, do you have anybody before I move on to the next? So it's just a big network and just equipment people in general, we stick together as well. So that's kind of how I take that as allyship.
Okay. Kelly, would you expound on that a little bit?
Sure. I look at allyship as just being supportive of one another. And that's pretty much what our networking does. I mean, to grow this Women of the AEMA in the last 3 years, Paige, I think you started it like 3 years ago or something like that. And it has just grown so much. That support network is unbelievable. And it can happen whether you're a woman of the AMA or a man of the AMA, it's all of us together doing it together. I mean, my first person I met in 1990 was Glenn Sharp, who made me feel so welcome as a woman at a Division III school at my first convention. That's the kind of networking and supportiveness that we should have in this organization, whether you're a male, female, or however you want to be identified.
Awesome. And Paige.
Yeah, kind of echoing that, the networking, but also, if you're somebody who has the ability to change someone else's mind. So for me, again, going back to that same boss, he's talked to a lot of people and said, yeah, Paige can do it. Like, yes, she's female. So who cares? She can do it. And so he's really, you know, stood on the table for me, and he is where I am, or he is the reason I am where I am. Because he stuck his neck out and he said, yes, she can do this. And the more that we can all do that for each other, I've been able to pay it forward. And I've had a head football coach that I've never met before call me and say, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a female equipment manager. Can she do it? And I'm like, yes, she can. Like, and that's just what that is to me is, hey, sharing that information, that it doesn't matter that you're male or you're female, whatever, it doesn't matter, that the individual, what they bring to the table is more valuable than their gender. And just having the people who are willing to stand up and say those things, and stick their neck out and say, yeah, they can do it. This is normal. This is okay, or it should be normal. And just helping them make that next step, because like you said, as we continue to see this trend of more female student managers in equipment rooms, that's because someone stuck their neck out and said, hey, that's normal, that should be normal, and it's okay. And it's just going to keep going that way. And that's what it is to me.
Awesome. And we'll finish up with Rashida. Would you mind chipping in there?
Yeah, and I will echo everybody exactly. Networking here, but also for me, networking with coaches has also helped me. My first start was with my head coach, Damon Wilson. When he was at Bowie State University, he believed in me to call me and say, hey, no one else has ever had this job as a paying position. Do you want to get paid to do this and keep doing it? And I was like, okay, sure. And he kept going with that. And he was an ally through so many times when people have called from other schools and they approach me and they go, well, can we speak to the head equipment manager? And I'm like, yep, that's me. And they look at him and he's like, she told you what she said. She said what she said, almost type of thing. But having him as an ally has been tremendous for me. Meeting him open doors to meet other head coaches. And then I get other coaches who call me and say, no, you know, ask Rashida. She's great. She's great at her job. She's maybe a female, but she knows what she's doing. So I would say having allyship here and networking with the equipment managers, great, but also networking with other coaches so they can also vouch for your work ethic and how you handle yourself with your teams.
That's an awesome nugget. Yeah, outside, I mean, obviously in the equipment world is great. Outside the equipment world is even better, especially with those that are in parallel positions, you know, your athletic trainers, your sports med folks, those types of folks, because everyone's going everywhere. It's great to have people on your side as you go through the journey. I think the other big piece is just the networking. Everyone talked about networking and kind of going with everybody. And I think that's a huge piece to it. I know our students at USG go through that, and we're helping them try to figure that network piece out, because it's more of a phone call of like, hey, can this person do it, versus a pretty application or, you know, all of the crazy things that people do trying to apply for a job. It's about the network, which is awesome. So thanks everyone for sharing. We're going to jump over to probably a little bit more of a stickier question, but I think it's important, especially with this panel, to kind of go through. So Rashida, we'll start back with you. We'd like you to discuss an experience where there was maybe conflict, and how did you handle it, and how maybe you or the other person could have handled it better. So let's talk about some conflict resolution that you've experienced in your role. So Rashida, go ahead.
I guess one that sticks out to me, I had an issue where I had a player who actually got a couple players that year. They thought they were above the mark because they were on scholarship, that they were these great athletes. And For me, I kind of bring everybody back down to reality when they come to the equipment room, because it doesn't matter to me if you were this great athlete at whatever school you came to before you came to my school. What did you do here? What are your stats right here? So I kind of put everybody on an even playing field. But I had this one particular athlete who just did not want to comply with any of the rules. He just really thought he was above everything. He could come at whatever time he wanted to come. Everything was on his time. One of the coaches that were there at the time, he was kind of on his side, and I'm like, wait a minute, you can't divide and conquer at this point. We have to be a united front. So I kind of just went to my head coach. We had a conversation, sat down with the other coach, and brought him in, brought all the coaches in. Then after that, to let them know, come see me first. Talk to me first, send me a message first before you jump onto the defense with your player, or you tell your player one thing. Talk to me before you go talk to them. Send me a text message. Let me know ahead of time so that we can have this conversation, because we got to be united fronts. It's just like parenting to me with them sometimes. You got to be united with each other. If you're not, it doesn't work. So, I mean, that's just how we resolved that conflict with my players. And going forward with that, it worked out a lot better. And nobody was playing the he said, she said, or me feeling like I didn't have anybody having my back with the rules and regulations that I'm setting with equipment.
That's awesome. Yeah, the teamwork there is the best way to handle it for sure. Before I jump the page, I do want to send out, just as we're getting down to the last couple of questions here, if you guys in attendance have any questions at all, please message them to me, send them directly to the USG. Go ahead and drop them in the chat tool, and I'll try to pick up as many as I can. So go ahead and send those in as we get through. Paige, you've got the floor. Let's hear about your conflict resolution.
All right. So mine also bringing up a player, thinking really hard about this question leading into this. And I felt like this one went pretty well. I had a player, so we require our guys to wear the right cleats for their size and position. And I'm pretty strict with it. I don't stray very far from what Nike prescribes as the appropriate cleat. I don't allow much wiggle room. It's just, this is what this is. Obviously injury, whatever, but I had a player who didn't like what cleats I was telling him that he needed to wear, refused to wear the cleats that I told him to wear, would wear his own cleats out to practice, kind of would be a constant going head to head. You need to put the right cleats on, that kind of thing. And finally stood in the hallway and screamed at me, "You don't know what you're talking about. You've never played football." And I was like, okay, awesome. This is good. This is really fun. So just allowed that to simmer out, obviously that made me angry. So I needed to step away and cool my jets a little bit, and allowed him to go and calm down a little bit. And later brought him into the equipment room and just talked through like, hey, this is all of the documentation. This is all of the research. This is everything that goes behind this. I'm not just pulling this out of thin air, just trying to make you wear what I want you to wear, not trying to be difficult or, hinder your performance. This is where this is coming from. This is why this matters. This is why I care. And showing him that amount of research and education and everything that went behind the decision kind of opened his eyes to, yeah, I actually do know what I'm talking about. And then kind of like Rashida said, even just bringing in the coaching staff and having their support and their backup, because we had all those conversations prior with the coaching staff, so they knew why I was doing it. And so his position coach coming in and saying, first of all, you're not going to disrespect anyone in this building, male, female, whatever, you're not going to disrespect anyone like that ever again. But then two, understand this is where this is coming from. This is the science and the research and the education behind it. And Paige knows what she's talking about. So when she asks you to do something, this is what you need to do. But I think the key piece of that, obviously having the information on the back end and knowing all that kind of stuff and why we do it, but allowing that little bit of time to cool our jets too, so that I'm not going off on him while I'm still angry and yelling at him, and he's not yelling at me, and like allowing that time to step away and then come back when we both have cool heads and we can have a calm conversation about it.
That last part there might be the most important part of that one, is just the cooling of heads is a big deal, whether it's athlete or coach is a big deal. So it's always a kind of I call it a grown-up move to step away and take it the next step. So Kelly, would you mind sharing some conflict resolution that you've had to deal with in the past?
Sure, most of mine's gonna deal with my early stages of my career because you have now a female working in a really dominant man's world. So where I'm trying to establish all these policies and procedures with the equipment room because I love organizing, and some say I have a strong personality and might be unapproachable, but I am very approachable. But coaches would not like to hear changes that are going to happen in their program. So the conflict was they didn't want that change. So the resolve was like, let's sit down and explain to you why this is. And really early in my career, created a mantra for me where I work with the coach and for the students so that they knew anything that I was creating a policy was for the betterment of the student experience. So
Yeah,
just really a lot of communication in that.
Yeah, no, anybody that's starting, I wish I would have got that advice when I got into it. Anybody that's starting a new sport in the equipment room, whether you're taking it away from the coaches, I think that's great. And here for you, coach, and for your athletes is the first thing out of your mouth. Usually your coach is more willing to listen. So that's great advice. Becca, would you share a little bit, maybe some conflict resolution you've had to go through?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Kelly, because when we hired Nicole Withrow here a year ago, that was the first thing I told her, is that we work with the coaches, not for the coaches, and to not volunteer for something you don't want to do for the rest of your career at Northwestern. So that's another piece to kind of take out of this. But most of my conflicts have been due to miscommunications, whether it be from my end to coaches or coaches onto me, and then everything just gets all jumbled up. So it's more, actually grabbing the coaches and sitting them down and be like, hey, like this can't happen again. Like we need this 2 days in advance instead of 2 hours in advance, and just kind of setting their mind frame to not have unrealistic expectations as well too. Like there's processes that we need to abide by with time, and like we can't plan 2 hours before you need something just because we're so busy in general. So it's just more kind of hedging the unrealistic expectations and just learning your coach's communication style. So I work with 5 different sports here at Northwestern, and each coach or each sport is set up differently. So some teams I work directly with the head coach, some teams I work with assistant coaches, and then some teams I work with their operations people. So it just is kind of dependent based off of team and people. So just learning more communication styles, kind of like what Kelly alluded to as well.
Yeah, communication style is it's usually where conflicts start. So especially if you've got a new staff member, or maybe a staff member that you're having issues with, I think that's an important part to talk about is how do you want to hear it? What's the best way to go about this? So that's awesome. We've got a couple questions that came in here. Angel sent one in and says, how do you implement policies for your equipment room when coaches and athletes are used to not having them or causing animosity? So I think this kind of ties into a little bit of that. Anybody willing to kind of take that one on? Maybe started a new program or having to come in and kind of reformat a program.
I can. So as I mentioned before, Bowie State University never had an actual equipment manager for football or any sport really. So when I came in for football, I noticed that a lot of organization and structure needed to happen for it to run and function effectively. So it really was just me sitting down, typing it up, making it plain in black and white, then sitting down with the head coach and the AD and saying, this is why I'm implementing this. This is how it will help our bottom line. This is where this will help us save money here. And once you show them, well, for me, once I showed them where the benefit was to their program, it made the transition a little bit easier in getting everybody on board with this is how things are going to be ran. And we're doing this because it's going to make it a better place for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think knowing your audience, right? If you're having to implement new policies with a coach versus your business office folks, you want to talk about saving money or providing a better experience. Those are 2 different kind of conversations to have. Same result you want, but 2 different kind of tones you want to take on. Anybody else want to handle that question? Have a different take on it? No? Real quick, Kaylee, I want to ask you something, as we talked about bringing more females into the industry and making it more and more clear that obviously the female role can be just as good as the male role. We want to talk about student managers, and obviously you're in that role. You know, explain to everyone kind of how recruitment of student managers can be improved, and maybe talk a little specifically for the female role in that, in the student managers.
Hey, let me, so I think the biggest thing for me, and probably for most females, is just for it to, like, for me, I like to not be like, I want to be treated like a male. Like, I want to, like, I don't want it to be, oh, you're a female student equipment manager. Like, no, I'm a student football manager, and yeah, I'm a girl, but I can do it and I can prove them wrong. So like, but my main thing is I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel welcomed, but I'm not saying they need to change their like they need to treat me differently, but just having an open mind helps a lot. And my biggest thing is to know that other females can do it. There's other females in this industry. Through networking, I've met a lot of women in this industry that have inspired me in so many ways to know that I can do it. So also just to have when hiring women, female student equipment managers, if they want to do this as a career, or you could encourage them if they're really good to make it a career, because it is possible. There's people out there that do it, obviously. So it's just, if they don't want to do it as a career, then that is totally fine. But you can always encourage and show them that, hey, there's these successful people out there that can do it. So
Perfect. And what about just pursuing student managers in general? What can, I mean, obviously social media is probably the low hanging fruit there, but what are some other things that you've seen or seen successfully as far as getting good student managers?
I think one of my biggest things is like through social media, Twitter, seeing just the positive outlooks. So if you don't have a student manager page, or you don't have an equipment page, just kind of show behind the scenes stuff. I mean, social media, one little post, you can, like, it could be viral if you showed something, and that just creates a lot of attention. We talked yesterday just about going to like the career fairs or the job fairs, just to get stuff out there, because there's a lot of people. I'm sitting in class, I have all the merch on, I have the backpack, and people are like, are you an athlete? I'm like, I'm not, but I work with the football team. They're like, no way, like that's so cool, like I didn't know you could do that. So like, just I try to promote it as much as I can, and we just got these shirts that just say equipment on it. So just kind of just to promote being an equipment manager. But lots of people think you're a trainer. I've had lots of people, oh, like you give the team water. No, I don't. I'm doing the helmets, I'm doing the jerseys, I'm helping in drills. So there's a lot of, I think, lack of knowledge of what people know about equipment managers or student equipment managers. So just to try to get the word out, social media is great. Career fairs, great if you are lacking like student equipment manager positions. So
Awesome. And we just had a large conversation with sports management professors during the Super Bowl week, and actually promoted the equipment manager world to them, because a lot of them had no idea that students were working in that world, and that would be a good way for their kids to get involved. So yeah, I think if you've got sports management, I'm sure you've already talked about it on your campus. That's definitely another route. So thanks, Kaylee. I appreciate you sharing that. I had a question come in.
Josh, can I add something to the student manager portion of
Yes,
that?
go ahead, fire away.
A lot of people were on this meeting that actually lead student managers. And one of the responsibilities that you have as a leader is to make sure that you're giving them all the tools that they need to be successful in life when they head into, whether it is a full-time equipment manager position or some other position. Like, we have to provide them all the tools they need to succeed in whatever it is that they choose. So Kaylee at Kansas, I know Larry's got a great student sustainability program. There's others that have that. That's our responsibility as the full-time, the people that are leading the students. So we got to remember that as well.
Kelly, I'm going to follow up. What specifically can you say that, you know, how do you create a good student manager program? What are some specific things? Is it just paying ultra attention to them or giving them things to do that make sense to them? What have you seen that makes that successful?
I think you give them ownership, like you explain to them what it is. I mean, I had a complete manual for my students. They got interviewed, they got evaluated, but they had a manual. They understood what the expectations I had for them, but I also gave them the ownership of it. Like, here's what needs done, go. As students who at Gettysburg College are not coming into this field of equipment management, they're spending a lot more money to be something else than that. So, but I think you could just give them the tools that they need for their leadership, you know, for their own self-confidence and stuff like that. Time management, organizational skills. Those are the things that we need to give students that work for us.
I think that's a great point. I think, you know, I mentioned the sports management piece, but a lot of us don't have sports management on our campus. And so we're like, well, it's hard to get because we don't have a sports management program. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think I look at the student worker jobs that I had when I was on college campus, and they, you know, a lot of the relationships and information that I got really turned me into the hardworking kind of group that I'm part of now. So yeah, I think don't let that be a deterrent. You know, promote the ability to work hard and network and find things to do other than go to parties and sleeping for class. You know, find some work ethic in it. Add something to your resume that's pretty original, which is awesome. So I got a question that came in here. Had a situation. I guess this is kind of open. Anybody wants to answer it. What do you do if a player of yours kind of went after a student and not really understood the context there, but maybe there was some conflict with one of your players and one of your student managers? How have you handled that? Has anybody ever had to take on that conflict management? And how do you work with the coaching staff on that? Has anybody had that and want to talk about that a little bit? No.
I have.
I never had the experience for a student athlete went after one of my student managers, but we did have the opportunity and the support of the coaching staff to meet with the team before they started their first practice, and the staff got introduced. And one of my words to them is, they're a reflection of me. So how you treat me is how you treat them. And that was the standard expectation that I was expecting out of student athletes.
Yeah. Paige, you're gonna add?
Yeah, it's similar. I've had an incident. It wasn't a student manager, it was a graduate assistant, but still kind of similar situation. Player got upset, went after, kind of both of their fault. The GA didn't handle the situation very well, kind of what we were talking about earlier, kind of the adult mindset, the coming with a cool head. So bringing that individual to the side and saying, hey, this is a better way to handle this, to Kelly's point, training him for the future of, hey, in future situations, this is how you need to handle it. This is how to be more professional. But then again, to Kelly's point, then talking to the student athletes and saying, this is an extension of me. You respect me. You respect my staff, my GAs, and my students. So kind of on both ends, making sure that the student managers understand they're there to help make the student athletes' lives easier. But then on the other side, understanding that the student athletes need to respect the student managers, GAs, whoever it is on the staff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think if any of you, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok, but if you're on TikTok, I know the whole Coach Prime and Colorado thing is a little out of hand, but there was some really cool videos on him introducing the staff and saying, you know, you respect these people like you respect me from a head coach. That's awesome. And he actually singled out all the females on staff as well and said, these are not anything besides staff of mine. So again, treat them as, you treat me or treat your mothers. I think was a really kind of a neat thing. I think he said as well, which is really kind of an important part that you might say. So before we close up here, I do want to share again, mentor mentee program. Make sure if you are interested in being involved, there's the email. Katie is kind of running the communication on that side, so please reach out to her. And then, as usual, I want to make sure I give Melly the floor here to say anything or update anything as you guys scan your QR code here for your CEU. So Melly, you got the floor.
Thanks. What a wonderful hour I've just spent with all of you. This was a terrific panel. You were all very prepared and very informative, and you gave a lot of wisdom. You shared a lot of wisdom. There's a quote that young people wish they had wisdom, and elderly people wish they had energy. So I think that was right in the middle there. Just wanted to put out a blurb for the convention. Registration is open. There's going to be a lot of things happening in Oklahoma City that week. The Women's College World Series. So I really highly suggest you get your flights taken care of, you get your hotel room taken care of. And I really want to emphasize how much work has been going into this this convention this year. There's going to be a lot of new things. One thing I want to call out, I know Katrina's on here, is that Sunday evening we are going to have a member game night at the hotel, and that's going to be starting at 8:15 once registration closes at 8. And we'll probably be keeping that room open throughout the week and having activities, maybe hat exchange. So I'm inviting all of you to make your way, find your way, take a plane, train, automobile out to Oklahoma City. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of activities and a lot of great educational opportunities, right, Paige? So that's my blurb. I hope to see all of you in Oklahoma City, but before that, on our next Zoom.
Awesome. Thanks, Melly. Again, all you guys, please scan the QR code for your CEUs. If you don't have that set up, we'll catch you on the back end of things. And I'll also I'll email out an updated schedule, everyone that registered for the call as well, so we get that updated schedule out. I know some of those dates were different. So appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Josh.